Hey guys, so it's bringing you another video. Now welcome back to another Huzzy Games breakdown of the patch. We do this every 2 weeks with the patch notes, and to be honest, I do them because you guys, a lot of you guys, will not read the patch notes, but to be completely honest, neither will I. So doing these videos actually makes me aware also of what's going on. So if you appreciate that, throw a like on the video. I will edit this and get it up on this channel later today as the second video. Obviously, earlier we did the Mundo launch one, so apologies that there's no live commentaries today, but between a rework preview that I got to time with Riot and then the patch note video, there's just not room for a live commentary. Obviously, we do 2 videos a day. But anyway, this is patch 11.11. So let's get into it. So, hello! In this one, we're looking back at changes we made earlier in the season and seeing how the dust settled. This includes curbing jungle Morgana, whose buff from last patch worked too well as skewed her away from her primary roles. That's definitely sure. We also threw some love to Ryze, who's been blue since the item shake-up. And then we adjusted 2 champions who are commonly found with 2 items, mainly Senna, or namely Senna, with Frostfire Gauntlet, a tank item, and Master Yi with Duskblade. We don't want a champ to feel bound to a certain item or to incentivize gameplay that feels out of character, so these changes should shuffle up more mythic options for them with sharpening their identities. Nexus Blitz is also back, so we'll probably make some Nexus Blitz content as that's also quite fun. But yeah, so they don't want tank Senna that can just like abuse the slow mechanic and then just be stupidly tanky, but then get the damage from later into the game. And then Master Yi, they don't want him to be an assassin. They want him to be the auto attacker that I guess he's supposed to be. So let's get into it. And here is the breakdown. I'm not going to make it bigger because I think we can kind of see what's going on. So the nerfs. Elise, unfortunately, because I like Elise. Lee Sin, but you can see the emblem is for jungle. He's not really been, well, I guess he has been in the jungle, but he's been in lane, mid and top, so this might be toning down the E buff that they did that actually made Lee Sin able to go into lane. Leona, who I do think is quite strong. Tomorrow I will say this will be from last patch, but tomorrow I do have to hype up the video. The video title is something on the lines of the most fun I've ever had in League. It's a Leona video. It'll be the main video of the day. And even though it's a support game, I urge you to watch it because genuinely we have so much fun. That was on my main account in ranked. So please do watch that Leona game. Morgana nerfs, Kiana nerfs, Rumble, who I don't really watch pro play, but I heard he took over MSI in the jungle. Shaco as support and Urgot in the top. Buffs though, we are getting Azir, Ezreal, Graves, Hecarim. God, 2 champions that are scary to be buffs is Graves and Hecarim. Nautilus, Ryze, Teemo, Seraphine, and Singe. We're getting adjustments to, as they mentioned, Senna and Master Yi. We're getting a new project line of skins, including the Prestige Sylas. Hence why we're probably not getting Sylas nerfs, to be honest. And then system changes again. I kind of joke about that, by the way, but it does sometimes feel really apparent. Like, Sylas is everywhere. He's pick or ban right now. I think in MSI he was one of the top picks as well. Hell, even the Koreans and people that came over for MSI in solo queue were using mid lane Sylas just to climb really fast. Like, he is a problem. No nerfs. So, weird. But then system updates to Moonstone, Renewer, Divine Sunderer, Serpent's Fang, Wardstone, the line of Wardstones, tank items, and runes. And then also, the project stuff is coming out on May 27th, so in a couple of days. And yes, I will be making a loot video as we normally do. So yeah, make sure to check it out if you're interested. So let's begin. We are starting with champions, and namely Azir. Azir's Q is going down in cost. It was 70 mana. It's now 55. That's quite considerable, to be honest. 15 nerfs. So every, that would be 3 to 4 casts. You're basically getting a free Q when normally you wouldn't get that. So that's actually not too bad. That's going to help Azir definitely in lane phase. But you have to be careful with Azir. You know, Azir is that type of champion that mechanically he's dependent on a skillful player to pull off. I always say the reason why you don't always just tie balance to win rate overall is Azir was the most dominant mid laner in the game, probably one of the most dominant mid laners or champions we've ever seen in League of Legends. He had a 44% overall win rate. So it just shows that it's not always win rate that is a determining factor if it's actually strong. There are many more things about it. Ban rate, pick rate, etc. So yeah, I think that's an okay buff, but they do have to be careful of this champ. Elise, so a champion that I like. I haven't played her in a little while. I was using her, but I've kind of steered away from jungle recently. I will be back there, no doubt. But they are Spider Form on-hit damage ratio decrease. So the Spider Form on-hit damage ratio used to be 30% ability power. It's now 20% ability power. So that might not seem like a lot, but it is. That's a technically 33% nerf. A third of it's just gone. So that's quite considerable. You know, sure, most of the damage that you'll do as an Elise will not be from the Spiderlings. You'll be doing the damage with your Spider Q or Human W or whatever. Those are your main chunking abilities. But jungle clear is going to be slower with that. DPS, just in general, if you're going to be attacking things with your Spiderlings, is going to go down. So, yeah, we'll see. You know, Elise was never known to be a late-game champion. And even though I don't think her late game was great recently, this is also going to affect that late game even more. But, yeah, that's a nerf for sure. Ezreal, one of my favorite AD carries to play, but I have felt like he hasn't been... There's not been a point to play Ezreal when you could just play stronger versions, arguably Kai'Sa and stuff like that, than him. So they're giving him a bit of a buff. So the health regen growth is going up by 0.1, and the armor base is going up by 2. So it's just going to give him a little bit more tankiness in lane and a bit more health regen if he gets poked. I mean, I think Ezreal's damage is fine. I had an Ezreal earlier today that was... He wasn't a great Ezreal, but we did manage to win the game. His late game damage was good when he finally started to get involved in the game. And maybe, yeah, maybe that lane phase little buff to make him tankier would help, but I don't think that's all of Ezreal's problems, I will say. But yeah. Graves' base AD growth increased. So AD per level used to be 3, it's now 4. So that's just kind of helping him ramp up into the game. I don't think that's crazy, so I think that's okay. But again, Graves can take over games, so you have to be careful. Hecarim is also a champion that, even in this season, has completely took over the games and meta at stages. So, what are they doing? The Q ratio for his... the Q damage ratio has gone up by 5 bonus AD. It was 70% bonus AD, it's now 75. And again, Hecarim isn't a champion that builds a lot of AD, so I think that's okay. And then the E, Devastating Charge, the minimum damage it will do. So again, minimum damage, if he just presses E and he's instantly on top of someone, it has to do a minimum amount of damage. But obviously, if you press E and you let the damage ramp up with the movement speed, then it can do a maximum amount of damage based on movement speed, etc. So it's doing now, it used to be 50% bonus AD, minimum damage is now 55% bonus AD. And it's maximum was 100% bonus AD, it's now 110%. So little bit of a AD ratio buffs there for Hecarim. Obviously, the more tank-orientated build was the problem when he was doing X damage as a tank, but also not dying. They've obviously nerfed the tank element of him, so they're giving him a little bit of love when it comes to his damage again. So I think that's okay, but as always, they need to keep an eye on Hecarim. Okay, this is quite funny. So Lee Sin, so what made Lee Sin go to lane and be popular again? Yes, he's still an early game champion, but his early pressure with that E, it was a 2-second buff. That it used to be, I think it was a 10-second cooldown on his E, and they made it an 8. What they're doing is reversing it a little bit. Not the whole way, so they're making it, it's currently an 8-second from the buff. They are now nerfing it back to 9 seconds. So... yeah, so, I don't know, some people probably now are really used to loving Lee Sin in lane again. It's really fun. I used to play it many years ago, and obviously we made that video a few weeks ago and did really well against that Yasuo. It is really fun to play lane Lee Sin, so I'm sure some people will continue to try and do it. And yeah, we'll just see how the 1 second less with E affects it. You know, a lot of people will not see that as a big thing. The thing with Lee Sin is he is that early game pressure. You do arguably need to get fed in early lane. And even a second nerf, you know, to that E, that's lessening your early pressure. Like, even by a second. But it adds up. Every single time you use E, it's now a second slower until you can use it again. And most Lee Sins will try to use it basically on cooldown. The more you try to use your E, this nerf is going to hurt more and more and more because, you know, every second kind of adds on to the next one, if that makes sense. So we'll see if Lee Sin does continue to be dominant. I think some people will definitely stop playing him, but some people will probably continue just because it's fun. Leona, I do think Leona's very strong right now. You know, as I mentioned, watch the video tomorrow. So the damage of Eclipse is going down. again, I'm fine with nerfing tank damage. To me, a tank really shouldn't do much damage, and arguably for a long time in League of Legends, tanks have done too much damage. So her base damage used to do 60 at rank 1 up to 200 for her W. It's now doing 45 up to 185. So basically a 15 damage nerf across the board. I think that's fine. In my mind, Leona shouldn't really do damage anyway. Master Yi. Q damage ratio decreased. So, you know, Yi's Mythica choice is often Duskblade, which gears his playstyle on the Q damage resets. So the more, like, again, Master Yi is not a very liked champion in League to say, you know, I think that's pretty obvious. Very basic champion, frustrating playstyle. The low rating you go where you don't have team synergy, a lot of people hate this champ. And in higher rating, he's practically useless because synergy exists. But the Q and Duskblade synergy has even made him okay in high rating, because if he's invisible after getting a Q reset and then he can do it again and again and again, what's the counter, you know? So it does seem that they're trying to tone that down. So the Q Alpha Strike is being nerfed by 10% bonus AD, which that is a considerable nerf. That will reduce its damage quite a lot, because the Master Yi build with Duskblade is a full AD build. So that's quite heavy. And then the E Wuju style is getting buffed. So the base damage of E, 20 up to 60, is now doing 30 to 70. So they're just trying to move it back to auto attacks rather than just Q. I don't know if they're changing the actual item of Duskblade, but to be honest, maybe some more of the basic players that play Yi, they're still going to do the Duskblade build. Like, they've probably gotten used to it by now and are now dependent on it, that I don't think this is going to deter people from doing it. Yes, they've nerfed it, technically, and I personally don't think it's a massive problem. But many people in low rating, people do think it's a massive problem. And maybe this isn't the nerf that people were expecting to, you know, deal with it. But I don't know. Morgana. So taken over the jungle recently. Obviously, it was initially insane that her W damage did 200% to monsters. Then they toned it down to 185. That's not enough. So what they're doing is, it was 200, it's now 185. It's now 155%. It will probably still be played in the jungle, but more as a niche pick, not a primary pick. When was the last time I saw a Morgana support? No idea. It's all been jungle. So maybe this will get people back to playing her in support, where technically she should be. But, I mean, some people, again, are still going to play her in the jungle. Nautilus. E now deals increased damage against monsters. So yes, they are trying to bring Nautilus into the jungle, or should we say back into the jungle? Because Nautilus was a jungler many years ago, in the time of when Snoopy was a pro player, and he played Nautilus and Moo and stuff like that. I mean, in theory, Nautilus as a jungler makes sense, because he's got aggressive engage CC. I just don't know if I don't know if he belongs in the meta of jungle. Like, as we all know, the meta of jungle is quite aggressive. One jungler gets behind, one jungler gets ahead. Objectives, dragon control. I don't think Nautilus is going to have dragon control. I think his clear is going to be probably quite slow. And yeah, gank's probably quite good, but you can just play him support and roam. I don't think there's an actual reason to take Nautilus into the jungle nowadays. I just don't think he belongs. Sure, if it was a full tank meta where the jungle playstyle has gone slower and you have the likes of Sejuani in the jungle again and Moo again, then maybe Nautilus could compete. But you don't have tank meta. Sejuani's not in meta right now. She's too slow. It's the more aggressive picks that are meta in the jungle. So I just don't see this really being a thing. The one guy that one-tricks Nautilus jungle is cheering, but I just don't think it's going to make an impact. Kiana. So I've always said Kiana is like a high rating pick. Like, if you're not perfectly clean with mechanics, play a different AD assassin that is just easier to pull off. Even I'd say Zed is arguably easier to pull off than Kiana perfectly. So, the W bonus movement speed decrease. So, the W Terror Shape, I think this is tied to the Bush one. I could be wrong, but I think W, when it gives you movement speed, is tied to the Bush one that gives stealth, or maybe they all do, I don't know. But the bonus movement speed was 5% up to 13. It's now 3 to 11. So they're just thinking that she's a little bit too fast with then dashing in out with E and all that stuff. So toning that down a little bit, but not excessive. It's not the main point of her W, for example. Rumble, again, taking over the jungle. So what are they doing? Passive on-hit damage cap against monsters decrease. So the passive on-hit damage cap was 120. It's now going to 80. So that will considerably slow down Rumble's jungle clear. Again, as I mentioned a couple times, yes, these are nerfs, but they're not completely getting rid of it. Some people will still play Rumble jungle. They will, you know, which I think is fine. It's just, you know, when Riot seem to try and force things, we're forcing Morgana as a jungler. We're forcing Rumble can jungle. They go a bit too far in trying to force things. So maybe Riot should learn from that and not force it too hard, because then you just get overpowered picks. So yeah, maybe this will be a more balanced version of Rumble jungle, because yeah, his clear was insanely fast. You know, it might have been even faster than Nidalee. I don't know. Rise, very problematic champion in League currently, unfortunately. They just seem to can't get this champion right. If you're newer to the game, Rise has had 3, maybe 4 reworks. And when we say reworks, we do mean reworks. His spells have changed a decent amount. I'd say maybe 3 official reworks. They just can't get him right, you know. And the reason why I think they've always tried with this champion is because one of the founders is named after him. Rise and Tryndamere were the 2 lead developers and owners of Riot back in the day. They were the 2 original devs. Obviously, they've not touched Tryndamere that much, and I'm sure he'll get an update in the next year or 2, a rework, but they've tried with Rise, and I don't know, like, the base health of health growth has gone up by Rise, so it was 98 per level, it's now 110, and that's quite a big buff. It'll make him feel tankier earlier into the game, but I don't know if that's addressing his main issues right now. Like, you know, they're saying here with losing Rod of Ages and the Seraph's Shield, he's lost survivability. So, and Phase Rush got nerfed, so his movement speed has gone down. So, you know, they're not addressing the movement speed issues. They're just giving a bit more health. I don't think that's going to help him completely, but sure. Senna. So, what are they doing with Senna? Because the build with Senna was the tank build. So, Frostfire Gauntlet has become Senna's dominant support build, boosting her win and play rate. While tank Senna can be fun, it currently overshadows the item options and writes off her primary weakness as a squishy champion. To mitigate, we're bringing more power back to support builds, where she historically had success, lethality, and AP? And tapping down Frostfire. Was that supposed to be lethality and AD, or am I crazy? I don't even know. I don't remember someone building AP on Senna. Maybe I'm crazy. So, passive. Bonus attack range per 20 miss stacks is going down, so she's getting less range. She's getting less range. Wow, okay. And then Piercing Darkness Heal now also scales with 160% lethality, so that's what it's trying to get people back to building lethality on her, not just tank. And then E, Curse of the Black Mist, bonus movement speed. That's how they're doing it. Okay, so it used to be it was 20% flat. It's still 20%, but you're also gaining a 1% bonus movement speed, but 20 ability power. Again, I guess people did build ability power on her, but I just don't, for the life of me, remember that. So if you get 100 ability power, you'll be getting an extra 5% movement speed, so 25% on your E. That's not too bad. And then the ultimate, Drawing Shadow, damage ratio is 50% ability power. It's now 70%, so a 20% ability power buff. So yeah, that's not bad. I still don't know why people were, again, building AP on Senna. I just remember everyone building AD. So I must have missed something, but sure. There's Senna. Probably not going to completely deter the tank build, I will say. They're not, like, stopping the tank build. So, yes, it's going to hurt a little bit to have less range, but I think it's still probably going to be fine. And obviously, yeah, the heal, by the way, the healing will get better with lethality too. Seraphine. W base self and ally shields increased. So we're buffing mid-Seraphine's performance by making her shielding per level more powerful, especially at higher levels. Wouldn't buffing shielding make support better though? So base self, the base self shield was 70 to 150. It's now 70 to 225. That's quite a big self shield. And then the base ally shield was 50 to 100. It's now 50 to 150. I don't, you know, again, we all have our own opinions about every champion in the game. Riot seems to really want to make this champion a mid laner, but the community, like, let me look it up right now. It won't take me long. Let me see what the general consensus is with the community with play rate with Seraphine. So, Seraphine's play rate in support. So, her pick rate in support is 3.9%. Her pick rate in mid is 0.5%. So, of all games in League of Legends, 0.5% of games have a Seraphine in mid. In 3.9% of games, there's a Seraphine support. So, let's just call it 4% support. 0.5% mid. So what? That's 8 times? Yeah, eight times more people are playing Seraphine support than mid, roughly. That's, you know, very rough math, but yeah. Well, there you go. Oh, yeah, literally it is. So in this data, platinum and above, recent data, so it's nearly 8 times. Matches for Seraphine mid in this last patch, 10,194. Matches for support Seraphine, 73,236. When the community is that much, like, more skewed, this is a support Riot, I think they need to stop thinking she's a solo. And I know people won't like that, or some people won't like that, but I think the vast majority of the community does see her as a support. I see her as a support. Like, her damage is very lackluster, her CC is fantastic, her ultimate's amazing, and her shielding isn't bad. So she's a support, right? And, you know, it's happened time and time again in the League of Legends universe. Zyra was a mid laner, ended up as a support. Morgana was a mid laner, so support. Brand, mid laner, support. It does happen. And it's now happened to Seraphine. And I think, you know, of all the ones that I've just named, of all the ones that, like, would be, you know, that's not a mid laner, I think the least surprising would be Seraphine. She has shielding and healing in her kit. Brand doesn't. He's a pure damage mage, yet he's a support. So for me, it's you know, she's just a support. Like, she just is. But there we go. Next up, Shaco. So I've seen a lot of Shakos recently. He must be in, like, a pretty good strength level, but I would always caveat Shaco with, you have to be really good at Shaco. So the average Shaco support that I've seen, and I think this is specifically nerfing that, they're garbage. Like, the average Shaco that I've been against, and I've probably played, I don't know, totally against 10 AP Shaco supports. I think I might have had one that was actually like, oh, he's good. 9 of them have sucked. And that's Shaco in a nutshell. He's a very, very not skill-based champion, but he's a very, you need to know Shaco. Like, that's the thing. And the average person just can't pull it off enough. And, you know, if you know what you're doing, it kind of counters Shaco as well. I've always said that, especially with stealth champions, a lot of them are countered by logic and common sense. Where would they be right now? Let's get vision control. Let's use red trinkets effectively. Let's group up to counter the stealth. So, yeah. So the damage ratio for Jack in the Box was 10% ability power and then 20% against single targets. Is now 9% flat for jungle clearing and 18% against single targets. So that's just flat out a nerf. And then the E was a 55% ability power ratio. It's now 50. So, I mean, AP Shaco is still going to be a thing. They're just kind of trimming a little bit of the excess strength off is the way that I would probably define it. So, again, people will still play him AP, but it'll be nerfed a little bit. Singed. E cooldown now scales. Oh, that's nice. I played Singed, like, what, a month ago in the Unranked Diamond series, I want to say, and it was actually surprisingly fun. I could never play it more games than I did. One game was enough because you literally just run around. But the E-Fling cooldown, I mean, I'm sure Singed mains are very happy about this. So it's going down by 0.5 a second until rank 5, where it's 8 seconds. 2 seconds from rank, for what it used to be, not including ability haste. So that's just overall a pretty nice buff. That's a 20% buff for Singed's cooldown at max rank. That ain't bad. Teemo. W cooldown decreased, so the W move quick is going down by 3 seconds. Haven't seen Teemo's basically at all this season. I think it's mainly because of the new items. The likes of when, you know, Teemo's window for League, he's always been good damage late game, but it was always dependent on him doing pretty good in lane and bullying his opponent. You know, you'd expect back in the day, oh, Teemo versus an average bruiser or tank in top lane, oh, he might get a couple of kills in lane, and he'll be double their farm, and he'll be really ahead of the enemy top. that just isn't the case anymore. When the average top laner can get, like, let's say, Stridebreaker from a lot of bruisers, that just owns Teemo. Like, as soon 8 minutes, 9 minutes into the game, they'll buy a Stridebreaker, and now Teemo's screwed. Like, his strength has disappeared. For players that at least know what they're doing, Teemo just isn't a threat anymore. So I'd say this buff is actually very much needed. What did I say was the counter to Teemo? Stridebreaker, it's things that get on top of him. So him having his W up that actually lets him run away fast is useful. So that being buffed, I think, is good for Teemo. Do I think we're going to see Teemo? No, I don't. Like, I'm sure there's Teemo players still in the game, but Teemo used to be one of the kind of autofill picks a top lane. Your autofill top, you can play Teemo. He's not anymore. You'll get owned. You just flat out will get owned. Urgot had some strength as champion in this season for sure. Had some obviously problematic, synergies with Kraken Slayer like Katarina had, and Riot had to deal with that. So the W modified damage ratio decreased later. So it was doing 36% bonus AD of the W, and obviously that fires very fast. It's now 34, and the nerf starts at rank 2 onwards. So that will hurt him a little bit, but 2% isn't a lot. But you do have to remind yourself it is attacking very rapidly, so it will be a nerf a little bit. But he'll probably still be fine. Items, top lane tank items. So Bramble, which, let's be honest, every single top laner practically buys Bramble nowadays. Armor's gone down by 5, and Bramble's vest reflected damage no longer scales with armor. I think this is because there was this video that I believe was circulating that someone bought a Bramble and literally the auto attacks with armor killed somebody on the enemy team. Like, they never attacked, and it was just a bit mad. So they've toned that down, and that's quite big. No more. You have 300 armor. Bramble was doing actually quite a lot of damage. It's not doing that anymore. So that's actually quite a big damage hit to Bramble, which I'm completely okay with, because looping back to what I said earlier, tanks shouldn't do damage. So that's fine. Warmog's minimum health requirement was 3,000 maximum health, has now been changed to 1,100 bonus health. So what that means is you need 1,100 bonus health from items, etc., for Warmog passive, the regen, to activate, where before you needed 3,000 health total. I don't know if that's a buff or a nerf, if I'm completely honest. It's very dependent on the champion, if it's a naturally healthy champion or not. We'll see. But there's that. Warden's Mail used to do rock solid damage reduction, was 0.5 of maximum health. It's now 5, then 0.35 of maximum health. And a tooltip. Tooltip now shows how much rock solid damage has blocked. So that will maybe make it seem that Warden's Mail is doing more, because it's probably more of an ignored item than Bramble is. So that's cool. Randuin's Omen, again, having the same treatment as Warden. So I presume this is a buff in my head, because no one buys Randuins. So maybe Riot are trying to make more people buy Randuins, maybe. And then Frozen Heart, again, people don't buy Frozen Heart really. Rock solid reduction, it's the same thing, but the damage reduction is higher, and the attack speed slow is getting buffed. So used to be a 15% attack speed. It's now slow if you're around someone with Frozen Heart. It's now 20. So yeah, so that's a buff for Frozen Heart. May make some people buy it, but probably still not going to be mainstream. Moonstone Renewer. So the heal and shield power per second was 4% up to 20%. It's now 6% up to 30. So that's a buff, 10% buff at max. That's quite big. Black Cleaver. So 4%, again, same thing, roughly, but slightly different math. So the armor reduction per stack used to be doing 4% armor reduction per stack, up to 24% armor reduction. It's now 5% armor reduction per stack and 30% armor reduction total. So that is a buff for that. That's quite good. Divine Sunderer. So Spellblade empowered on hit damage 10% of target's maximum health. It's now doing 12% of target's maximum health. And the Spellblade healing used to be 50% healing for melee, 30% for range. Is now 65% for melee, 40% for range. So overall, buffs. I mean, this is obviously hurting tanks. This is an item that is an anti-tank item. Sure, I guess. I still don't think tanks are fully in the meta right now, but okay. Frostfire Gauntlet. So Snowbind slow for ranged users. Ah, here we go. This is for Senna. So 25% slow, 4% per max, 4% bonus per 100 maximum health. It's now only for ranged users. They have halved it. 12.5% slow and then 2% per maximum health. So maybe in late game, Senna might have 2,000 health maybe. Like, she probably won't get to 3,000, I'd imagine. So that means Senna will only be doing 16.5% slow now, where before she was doing 25 and then say 2,000. So she would be doing 8%, 25, 33%. And now she'll only be doing 16.5. That's a really big nerf. And also, oh my god, goodbye to this build for Senna. Used to be a cooldown for the slow of 4 seconds for ranged users, 6 seconds. So it's been halved and longer cooldown. Oh, I was actually thinking, like I said in the Senna bit, I was like, that's not going to stop people doing it. Okay, yeah, that stops it. So there we go. And then also the same effect for the Ornn upgrade also. Staff of the Flowing Water support item used to do 20 to 40 AP. Based on target's level for 4 seconds. It's now giving 25 to 45 ability power based on the target's level for 4 seconds. So it's a small AP buff for the champion that she's obviously helping. So there's that. Serpent's Fang. Sorry, my voice is getting croaky because we're talking a lot. The Shield Reaver shield reduction for ranged users has gone up. So they're making this item feel a little bit better for ranged people because a lot of people probably just weren't buying it. But this is the anti-shield item. If there's, Lulu and Ivan in a game and they've got a cog more, dude, we're not even going to get through the shield, let alone kill him. Buy a Serpent's Fang. You break the shields. So there's that. Wardstone. I literally have never built this item. So we're reshaping the Wardstone line to fit more as a capstone support item, similar to Rabadon's Death Cap, Infinity Edge, and Gargoyle's Stoneplate, all of which are stronger. We're also streamlining the purchase path to be a one-stop shop like Manamune Archangels. Okay, so remove that item, and now we've got Watch Your Wardstone. It costs 1,100 gold. It gives you health. It gives you ability haste. It gives you 3 additional... No, this item can store up to 3 purchase control wards. So right now you obviously can buy control wards, but they take up an item slot. So you can buy this item and it stores your control wards. So at least you're gaining health and ability haste on top of having your control wards. And then remove the cap by 1. But upon reaching level 13 and completing the support quest, automatically upgrades it to this one, which it gives it 5 more ability haste, same as that, but it also gives you this. It increases your ward, stealth ward, totem ward, and control ward caps by 1 each. And then the Wardstone now increases ability power, ability haste, and bonus attack damage, and bonus by 12%. What? Holy Jesus Christ. Every support's going to buy this now. You have to. Yeah, so... we've spoken about before, the Riot's being all about item diversity. See, this is the type of thing that makes me think they're not really about item diversity because they've just made this item now stupidly, insanely good. 12% extra stats for supports. Increase it, is a slot that your control wards sit on, so you may as well just buy this item anyway because you're gaining at least health and ability haste, but you're getting 12% that, and you can buy an extra one. Literally, you have to buy this item now, probably as a support. Halo Blades, the cooldown has been doubled. Whoa. 6 seconds. No, sorry, not doubled. I thought that was a 6. It was 8 seconds. It's now 12. Okay, not doubled. But still, quite a big increase for Halo Blades. 33% increase. Wow. Biscuit delivery, you can... that's interesting. You could sell your biscuits and make 30 gold in the shop. They're no longer letting you do that because it's only 5 gold per biscuit, so it makes it a lot less worth to actually sell your biscuits. You may as well use them, so there's that. In-game shop updates, there's all that stuff. Nexus Blitz is coming back. Bug fixes, I've always said, if you see a champion you play here, make sure you read it. So, Kassadin can no longer trigger Electrocute by hitting a champion with 2 separate attacks. So literally Kassadin's could just trigger Electrocute by hitting someone twice, not 3 times, with different things. That's quite a big bug, actually. Upcoming skins, so again, we got Project Sejuani, Mordekaiser, which looks epic, Renekton, Senna, Silas, and Project Silas, with then also Varus. Chromas also, but there we go. Hopefully you guys enjoy this patch note breakdown. I think it was an okay patch. Sure, there's some things I do think are missing. Silas nerfs cough. But, yeah, nonetheless, not a bad patch. Let me know what you think down below. Hopefully you guys are okay, keeping healthy and safe. And, yeah, hopefully you're enjoying League and it's going okay. My League is definitely getting better. I'm back to climbing on my main account, which does feel good. Hopefully we'll be back into Diamond 2 in the next few days. And that's a good feeling. But anyway, that's going to be it. If you guys enjoy, throw a like on it, throw a subscribe, comment down below. See you guys next time. Peace.